Welcome back to another episode of Reusable Space Program. You find me, and it's been a while since we've been here, in the VAB putting together a new craft. This is going to be our, well, we move around a lot of materials, but we don't really move around crew. Oh, by the way, subscribe, like, all those comments down below if you've got any suggestions. Yeah, we need to move around crew a bit more, so we're actually putting together a little crew transport here, and you can see I'm being a little cheaty with my positioning because I want a craft that's just nice and easy to fly, if I'm entirely honest, and nice and compact. So we've used our Gemini craft to build this thing, and we've basically stuck some transportation stuff on the top there, which I will come to rue later on, but it's fine. Anyway, while we're building that, Sean's been doing some stuff, so I suppose we should probably go and see, shouldn't we? Right, so also in the VAB, Sean has decided that he is quite capable of solving our problems for crew transportation. Now, the Gemini craft that we were building before is actually going to be used for transportation within space, but he says, well, we need to be able to get crew to and from space. Now, we pointed out that most of our crew, when they get to space, don't come back down, but he said, no, we need to actually allow people, or Kerbals, to go up and down from space. We want to maybe have some space tourism. So he proposed a plane. He likes planes, and we pointed out that there is no air in space, and so you don't need wings. Well, he then pointed out then, yeah, but you don't not need wings. And his logic was, well, I'll be honest with you, it was not flawed. You know, he's not wrong. We don't not need wings. So this is the Valiant. This is Sean's plan for taking crew up and down from space. Yeah, you can see it's basically a plane. On the bottom there is pretty much a couple of engines inside that shroud, and we're assembling it, putting RCS on and things like that. We do put some jet engines and things like that onto the craft, and you can see inside that payload bay there is space for payload, but there's also space for crew. So we've got an extra crew compartment there and a docking port. So we have a docking port inside the craft, which, you know, hopefully will allow it to do all the wonderful things. And how are we going to get it up into space? Well, we're going to have to build a reusable stage underneath it. So we take some of the biggest engines we have, well, not the biggest, but some of the biggest engines we've got, and we're basically going to stick it on top of a rocket. If you've ever seen the space shuttle, this is not how they did it. They put it on the side. We're going to stick it right on the top. We're giving ourselves a lot of lovely parachutes around the outside there, so this thing can be recovered. It'll dump itself down into the ocean, no doubt, and then we're done. And the final sort of orbital insertion will be done by the craft on the top there. So with that in mind, off we go. And Sean, of course, is piloting the Valiant one. Yeah, Valiant one, flying up. And you can see it's actually doing this odd little banking. We rotated the craft round so that it would bank onto its back like this, just so you could see where he's going, I think. Luckily, remember to put the wheels away, because that would have been embarrassing. And you can see there the vector engines at the back there are really useful for actually controlling this. It is a little off-center because of fuel distribution and wings and stuff, but it's not too bad. So that will now return back down to the planet, and it will be recovered. We open our docking bay, and you can see there we've got, in the center of the docking, the payload bay there, we've actually got a large compartment for crew support. So we could swap that out. We can actually put payload in there is the idea, but that will actually come up with us. And I think the inclusion of that is possibly what causes the later problem. Anyway, I'll not mention that just yet. So you can see we've got on the back there, we've got two jet engines, two sort of on-orbit engines, rocket engines, and that's to give us a little bit of cross-range capability when we come back down. The idea being that hopefully as he comes down, we can actually bring that in. Now, that first stage booster, we actually we bring it back down and dump it into the ocean near the KSP, not too far away, using all of those parachutes that we installed and everything really nicely. And I maybe overdid the parachutes. I would have liked a really big parachute. I think this is possibly an option for real shoots would be perfect. But anyway, so on orbit, Sean is actually coming into rendezvous, and this was actually getting to this rendezvous point was actually pretty easy for us. This craft is a lot more maneuverable than I originally thought it was going to be on orbit. I thought it was going to be a lump to turn, but we do actually we've got a big reaction wheel inside there, plus the reaction wheel of the actual cockpit and all that sort of stuff, and all of the lander can, I think, that's in there as well. It's got the docking port attached to it. So there's a lot of torque in this craft, even without using RCS. So that's actually really advantageous. So where are we going? We're going to, of course, dock to Dawn Station. Interesting, this craft is almost the same size as the core of Dawn Station. It reminds me a bit of Shuttle Mir. If you're old enough to remember that, or you look in the history books, the docking of the shuttle to Mir as part of that project always looked very strange, because Mir was quite a big structure, but the shuttle in comparison was huge relative to the components of Mir. And you can see there we're breaking the biggest rule, which is we're firing our main engines, straight at the space station. Yeah, not a brilliant idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually come alongside, and I'm being very careful not to hit the solar panels. I'm aware of that solar panel, and in reality I should probably have pulled it in at this point, but we'll see what happens. I think we're actually safe. We're actually safe on that one. I'm not going to pre sort of guide you on that. So here we are, and this was actually not the easiest docking, primarily because thruster positions. I have actually learned not to put my thrusters into specific, if I'm going to do changing the orientation of my craft like this, so that I use a docking port that isn't the front of the craft or something, not to lock my RCS, because that makes it impossible. But yeah, it wasn't bad, and we did get a contact, just took a while, and there you go. That is beautiful, isn't it? Isn't that a wonderful little image there? Bit of a wobble there. Could do with some struts, I think. So we've now got the fuel tank up there next to the shuttle. That's just asking for explosions, isn't it? It's just asking for explosions. You can see if we turn off the SAS, the thing stops shaking. However, the problem is that it starts to drift as well, so it's a bit of a difficulty. I think potentially the wing situation is a problem. So after popping up to the space station, seeing what's going on, Sean goes, right, we've done our mission, it's done really well, it is time to return. So he puts his solar panels out back again. We redistribute some of the fuel, because we want the fuel to be a little bit more forward than it had been. So we pull it out of the back tanks, put it into the wings, put it into wherever we can find it. And now we're just going to position ourselves for return. Now, we don't really mind where we land, as long as we land, is the truth. We would like to land back at KSC, and this thing, the view is with the jet engines, this thing should actually be able to fly to pretty much most places. It doesn't look as though it has much fuel on board, but it's got more than enough fuel to do a reasonable flight to a safe landing. That is the belief. So we reorientate the craft, we've closed up the cargo bay, and now we're coming in for our re-entry. Yeah, superb. Sean obviously very excited by this. So, this has actually been a flawless mission to this point. We landed the booster beautifully. This thing went up. We had a little bit of a problem with the SAS on the station, but we docked really quite easily considering the size of this craft and the orientation. Now it's the difficult bit, the re-entry. So you can see we're getting a little bit of heat building up just as we're coming through, but that's fine. We can change the position of our nose, we can change our angle of attack, we can get down deeper, we can pull up, slow down quicker, we can control it. We don't get any significant problems with G-force at the moment. We're losing speed quite nicely. We see we're now coming towards the ocean to the west of KSC, and that's when we have a problem. We start to spin, and we've lost a lot of speed there. G-force rises to about 7G, something like that, which is not brilliant. Sean's happy, but not brilliant. What it does allow us to do is turn on the jet engines. So we get the jet engines on, and they ain't helping. The jet engines are not doing what they should be doing. We may have the wrong jet engines, we may have them situated incorrectly, we may just not have enough of them. So there you go. We've turned them off now because, well, they weren't really doing anything. So now we're trying to pull it around. We seem to be okay now. We're in a glide slope of sorts, but we shouldn't really be in a glide slope of sorts because, well, this thing should be able to lift, and we're not. Now, I think the big problem is that big amount of cargo still on board. I think if this thing was empty, I think we'd be okay. But we've got quite a few tons in that cargo bay, and I think that's too much for this craft. I think it's just too much. And you can see Sean, he's looking a little pensive right now. Now, the aim is, can we land it on the desert edge there? And unfortunately, it looks like there's a cliff, and we cannot pull up. We're not getting any altitude here at all, and we're coming down. And the decision is made. You know what? Eject. So we activate the emergency ejection, which should decouple the cockpit. It does not. Sean Sean seems to have failed to construct this craft incorrectly. So we've detached the we've detached the nose with its parachutes. Unfortunately, it's still stuck to the body of the craft, which has engines running. The jet engines are pretty much out of fuel, but they're still giving a bit of thrust. And yeah, Sean, I can see on your face there that you think this is not such a problem, but I'm going to be honest with you, this is not going to go down well in the media. So yeah, this is gonna hurt, I think. And oh, now, this is where we're worrying. And oh, now it detaches. So as you can see, thanks, Sean. Yeah, any landing you can walk away from. Sean has broken the back of the Valiant. He thinks he can do better. I'm not entirely sure, but we have lost 2 of the jet engines. Interestingly, the only things that broke were 2 jet engines. You can actually see there. I think we got a decoupler that was broken in splashdown, so the decoupler went, but that we knew that was going to happen. So, while Sean tries to improve on his plan, Matt up on Dawn Station has sent down some plans of his own, and he said, you know what, planes overrated. You need a rocket. So Sean has come up with, Matt has come up with what he calls the Dauntless. The Dauntless is designed to transport 4 crew up into orbit, so it's not got the same capacity as the Valiant, and it can't hold cargo. It is purely a crew launch vehicle. And here you go, it's going up, launching up into orbit there. Single launch stage there, which is going to get it most of the way to orbit, and then it will deorbit itself. So here we go, coming up. And this is very much built on our previous design of 2 stage to orbit, 1 stage, reverse. Use our final engines there to get up to roughly orbital speed. And there we go. Final burn is completed by this top stage. The top stage is basically 4 cockpit capsules. Yeah, so it's going to have a docking port in the center and the cockpit capsules, and it's basically got a little engine at the back there with some RCS, and it's got its solar panels. It's very much inspired by the design of our original fuel tankers, with the shape and the docking port on the top, because we know that most of our, or in fact all of our docking facilities fit that shape. We've got space around them for that. That's what they were designed for additional modules and for so forth. So it's designed in that structure. It's got RCS, so it's very maneuverable. Its first stage there has a little engine in the middle there which will do its return, and you can see all of inside there. It's got its parachutes hidden away inside nicely, and this is a nice little design here. Actually, we've got that little shrouded section at the top there, and within that we have all of our parachutes and everything. They're not stuck on the outside, they're not subject to the risk of heating or any sort of forces that could damage them on the way back down. They're all protected inside that shrouded section. So as we come down, pretty much no fuel left on this thing. We've got a little tiny bit just for Delta V. Our drogue chutes open up, our main chutes come open, semi-open. We deploy our landing legs, which are nicely positioned there. Unfortunately, we're going to come down in the water, so we're not going to be able to test the landing legs in such a way on this mission. But hopefully this thing's going to come down without a problem in the dark, obviously, because that's what we do, just for better YouTube imagery. And we're going to fire that final engine, lands down perfectly. So Sean is now on the top stage of the Dauntless. There's Dauntless 1, and he's about to go and see Matt, who designed the Dauntless. So here we go. He's going to dock at Dawn Station, and you can see yet again, as with the Valiant shuttle, this thing, because of its reaction wheels and the fact it's got the 4 cockpits built in, it's really quite able to rotate itself around without RCS. So one point I would say to anybody that's going to design things for docking, unless you're playing in Realism Overhaul or anything like that, if you're playing in stock KSP with reaction wheels as they are in stock, you know what, they are a godsend to docking, because you don't have to waste RCS on reorientating your craft. You only need to use RCS for your translation and so forth, and that's wonderful. To translate with only RCS, absolutely, saves you so much. So you can see in there, we've actually got in the bottom there, we've got a few stacks of fuel tanks and some RCS as well around that central engine, and that's basically the design, is that we've got that central engine there just to provide us with bump. We could actually get away with a smaller engine, but I think it sits nicely in there. And then this is going to come in. Sean's going to come in and dock and meet up with Matt, who is no doubt going to rub his nose in it. However, this thing hasn't deorbited yet, so let's see. So there we are, Dawn Station with its first little proper crew arrival pod, and we're going to see some more of those in the future. But while they discuss transportation systems, and Matt tells Sean he's a bit of a stupid boy for putting a plane in space, until next time, have a great one.